up, Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Badlands Book Club, covering the recap of Chapter 3 on Ralph Pizzullo's Stolen Elections, joined by the lovely Ashe Epp and lovely Colonel Towner. I can't say lovely Colonel Towner. I can't say that.
You can, actually.
No, the Marine in me hears Colonel and thinks like badass motherfucker.
Well, that too.
We can go with that.
You could still be a badass.
He's a lovely, badass motherfucker.
You could be lovely and badass. So you're both of those things. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, and got a lot to talk to. So we're going to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors, and then we'll get right into the show, rolling right along. Badlanders, you're all familiar with Loaded Gun Coffee. They've been longtime supporters of Badlands, and you've probably met them in person at our Guard events. But did you know they're also a veteran-ran, family-owned shop in Lake Havasu, Arizona, and every bag of their whole bean coffee delivers a high-octane, patriotic punch with a long list of history of commitment to freedom. Every bag is a testament of pride and honor, from the skilled farmers who cultivate each blend to their roasters that handpick the finest coffee beans from around the world. Loaded Gun Coffee has mastered their unique brewing methods, resulting in the best tasting coffee around. This coffee is smooth and delicious, the perfect way to start your mornings and the rest of the day. Get over to badlandsmedia.tv/loaded and use promo code Badlands to get 10% off your order. And if you're in the Lake Havasu area, stop in their newly renovated store and say hello. That is badlandsmedia.tv/loaded, promo code Badlands. Stay loaded with Loaded Gun Coffee. And there you go. Ashe is rocking out the hat.
Yep.
And let's go ahead and have Ashe talk about Unicity here in just a second.
You deserve more than sluggish mornings and blood sugar spikes. Discover the simple daily system that helped so many regain health without dieting or exercise routines. 2 easy-to-take daily drinks. A brain-boosting, appetite-suppressing morning blend that ushers in energy and clarity. A hearty, fiber-packed pre-meal drink that stabilizes blood sugar, aids digestion, and fights cravings. It's a gentle, science-backed path to improved metabolism, renewed vitality, and lasting weight control. Feeling better starts with this simple 2-step daily protocol.
If you're feeling sluggish, can't lose weight, or you're just tired of the hold that Big Pharma has on you, head over to badlandshealth.com to get started today. You've got nothing to lose with their 90-day money-back guarantee.
All right. And on that note, let's jump in to Chapter 3 of
Criminal investigation by people who are not authorized to do criminal investigations. Okay.
It's their own criminal investigation.
Yeah, I'm just going to spun it up. Right. All right. So the chapter starts out calling these guys again 2 whistleblowers. So I'm going to refer to these guys as whistleboys, because they are basically whistleboys. They are not whistleblowers. Gary Bernstein and Martin Rodil, that has been shown to the CIA, DOJ, FBI, this presentation, and 2 members of Congress. They saw it in 2024, but never acted on it because it's garbage. Recently, with the new administration, attitudes have changed. Currently, the information uncovered by the whistleboys is the basis of the DOJ investigation. Well, first of all, they have no idea what the basis of the whistleblower or the DOJ investigation is at all. It's my supposition that the material found in the proverbial burn bags over at the FBI has a lot of information about election interference in it that might be part of the DOJ investigation, but we have no idea what the basis of their investigation is, and neither do these people.
I just also like to point out that Martin Rodil has known about this Venezuelan election rigging and its role in our elections since it in chapter 1, it talks about them realizing all of it in 2012. But I
Yeah.
think he specifically knew about it even before that.
Yeah.
Like 2010-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. But now we're going to do an
And in 2024, we showed it to the CIA, DOJ, and FBI.
Yeah. And then he says the same 15 engineers that Gary, the CIA guy, recruited as part of their criminal investigation. Again, they're not doing a criminal investigation. Enter Dominion's encrypted voting system through a back door. How do you know that isn't the CIA's back door?
It's everybody's back door. You can get the passwords on the internet.
Do you think that it's that they mean an investigation conducted by criminals?
Could be.
Maybe.
They knew exactly where the back door was.
Yeah. I bet they just found it. They just stumbled upon it.
And I'm not a software engineer, but the next area talks about the engineers will take you through the step-by-step decrypting and then installing software developed by the Venezuelan regime, which again, there's no proof of that, into the Dominion machines. Well, you need to decrypt it to change it and then encrypt it when supposedly you have the engineers there that can do it in its, because they have access, right? I don't even understand that. Because, you know, when you are on the encrypted system in the military, you don't decrypt it to get in it and change it because you're already in it. So if the engineers have the access to it, what's the decryption all about? I don't understand that. Just based on my experience. Okay. Skipping down a little bit. It says that, of course, they flip the votes and then they re-encrypt it and delete the logs so that no one can see that they're in there. You can't prove the system can be entered through a secret back door if you aren't familiar with the special tools that are built into the system. So I just want to take the audience through a couple of examples of the CIA building back doors into software. You have Crypto AG, which was a NSA project during World War II that the CIA was part of, OSS, then CIA, and they built a back door into it. And the Crypto AG company was basically a front. And it was set up in neutral Switzerland as a front for the CIA and the German BND, which is the CIA counterpart, to sell these hardware systems to governments that then deployed them to all of their embassies around the world. So the CIA from post-World War II up until 2020, when Trump got rid of it, could see every single encrypted cable that was sent from over 100 countries that this equipment was sold to. They knew everything that was sent to their field embassies through this system. And every one of them had a back door that the CIA and the government, the BND in Germany, could monitor everything. So if you think about every world event that went on from post-World War II until 2020, the CIA was spying on every country that had bought this equipment. Also, the Promise software, another example of that. Inslaw, a company, created a capability to monitor data that would allow the DOJ, which he approached to sell it to them, i.e. the FBI as well, to monitor monetary systems around the world for money laundering. The DOJ, in collusion with the CIA, stole that software, created a backdoor to it, and Mossad mysteriously ends up with a copy of it. And they have backdoors where they can monitor all money laundering and cover up their own money laundering on a worldwide stage.
And when that's the case, you have selective justice by
Correct.
definition. Otherwise, we would have seen all of the money laundering rolled up, because you have
Correct.
smoking gun evidence, right?
Correct. And they have Promise software. They have the evidence. So when was that ever used? Well, it's used against their competitors. It's used against people that either don't want to go along with their operation or whatever. It's selectively used, to your point. So just so that
it's not going to be used to go after legitimate money laundering of bad guys, because they don't want to disclose that they have this in the ways that they're using it. But also, so that's the first part. They wouldn't disclose it in that way because they want to keep using it, and they'd have to stop if they did. But then also in court, there are actually rules of evidence, and you have to get things lawfully. And this sounds incredibly like that in the US, you're definitely not getting this lawfully.
Well, what the CIA did was they passed information to people that they knew so that they could subpoena the right information on their competitors. So the rules of evidentiary products is satisfied because they're getting tips on where to look. But the information is never shared on their assets and their money laundering.
Yeah.
So this is not unprecedented that the CIA sets up their own back doors to any system that they can manipulate. I just want to make that perfectly clear. So when they say that you can't prove the system was entered, the CIA are experts at that. Just throwing that out there. Going on. The Whistle Boys have 16,000 emails from one election company, Smartmatic, and an additional 20,000 emails from another company, Dominion, that were produced in discovery during their legal case against Fox News. So they were involved in briefing Fox News, who then goes on to settle. Well, why would they do that? If they had all the smoking gun evidence and it was all extracted from the lawsuit, why would Fox News settle?
Lawfully, you can use it. Yeah. Why would they settle? It's an excellent question. I hope they tell more about that in later chapters.
Yeah.
I've always had my theories about the Fox News settlement and whether or not $1 is ever going to change hands in that settlement.
Yeah. So it literally makes no sense, as most of this book doesn't. If you have smoking gun emails saying that all of this happened and you got them out of Fox News, then Fox had them. But they settled. Okay. Moving on. The emails include an admission of fraud by Dominion committed in Coffee County, Georgia in 2020. Other emails relate to actions taken to alter the outcome of 2020 elections in Cook County, Illinois. All right. So if you look at the next area, additionally, this whole paragraph, starting with additionally on page, I've written all over my book, 37. I want to read the whole paragraph because it actually is very misleading.
Hang on 1 second, just real quick before you move on, because they've now invoked Georgia twice here, and Georgia is kind of my area of expertise. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing that would suggest that there were. Now, granted, we haven't seen the physical paper ballots yet, so there's a possibility that the electronic digital files that we have are in fact fraudulent. Very well could be. But at this time, especially invoking Coffee County there, the only thing that would suggest that there was something wishy-washy in what Coffee County was what Lenberg uncovered when he found the parameters on the machines were different. But it was Dominion that went in and altered those parameters via Bluetooth connectivity. It was not, as far as we know, a foreign country that did it. And if it was, it was Dominion in Serbia, which is the claims that we get.
Well, yeah, and that's what he says, right? Is that the fraud was admitted by Dominion.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about when they say the fraud was admitted by Dominion, because I've read those emails. I've talked to the people that have read all those emails. I've talked to people that have, presented those emails as
Maybe
as
the
evidence.
whistleboys have emails that you don't have, Brian.
I mean, they're in discovery, so they're, maybe could be.
All right. So let me read the whole paragraph, and then I want to go back and just dissect it. Additionally, on August 8th of 2024, 4 criminal indictments were issued in Miami against 2 officials working for Smartmatic's subsidiary company. The assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida who launched the case is named Michael Nadler. In 2018, before Michael Nadler stepped down from a more than 2-decade career as a public servant, he secured what has been described as the largest judgment to date against a Venezuelan insider. Now, the next paragraph starts as a result of what you just read. So it's tied directly to that paragraph. The former national treasurer of Venezuela, Alejandro Andrade, is currently serving a 10-year sentence for his role in a foreign currency conspiracy. So he's implying that all of that paragraph before it was a result of this guy serving a 10-year sentence. They literally have nothing to do with each other. Literally nothing. And I'll explain that. And I'm also want you to understand that if I wrote a paragraph saying, additionally, on August 8th, 2024, 4 criminal indictments were issued in Miami against 2 officials working for Smartmatic subsidiary company, the assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District Court of case, Michael Nadler. That's one instance. That happened in 2024. The next part of that paragraph, starting in 2018, before he stepped down, he also got the largest judgment to date against a Venezuelan insider. Well, what do those two things have to do with each other?
It sounds like they're implying that Alejandro is the guy with the judgment against him. That's what it sounds. That's how it kind of sounds like it's intended to read.
So the problem with all of this is Alejandro pled guilty in 2017 for money laundering that had absolutely nothing to do with election. Nothing. He was money laundering. And as a result of that money laundering, he was forced to surrender $1 billion in settlement. And he was supposedly money laundering for a guy by the name of Raul Gorwin. Again, none of this. Gorwin is the guy that owns the media company Global Vision. Oh,
we looked into this.
Yeah, so they literally have nothing to do with each other, except for the fact that this Michael Nadler handled both cases. And they both had tangentially some association with Venezuela. But he's trying to make this Michael Nadler out to be some badass that knows everything about Venezuela by the fact that he handled 2 cases. And, he's now going to be their attorney because he has Venezuela bona fides because he handled a money laundering case. And let me just also say that Michael Nadler was appointed in 2010 to the Obama DOJ. And he also prosecuted, did we talk last week about Alex Saab? The guy that was at Colombia. He was a Colombian and he was arranging the food for Iran's switch of oil. Yeah, he was the guy that prosecuted him. What? Ash.
Is Michael Nadler Jerry Nadler's son?
I don't know. That's a great question.
It appears he is. He also worked for Gibson Dunn, worked for Paul Weiss, and was a prosecutor, according to the AI overview, prosecutor looking into money laundering, financial crimes.
Yeah, that's him.
Stuff.
So, he's
wow,
the guy that used a backdated.
Weird they leave that detail out, that they wouldn't tell us that it was Jerry Nadler's son we were talking about.
You would think that it would be important to the conversation,
make
right?
it more credible, wouldn't it?
It would. So this is the attorney in the DOJ that used a backdated Interpol arrest warrant to prosecute a guy that wanted to feed people in Venezuela and had him nabbed on a tarmac under false pretenses. Okay. So that's the same guy.
Hold on. Just a quick correction. I just AI'd it and it said it is not the same. It is not Jerry Nadler's son.
Huh.
The battling.
So there's two Michael Nadlers that are prosecutors for money laundering, like against money laundering.
Michael L. Nadler, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, is not related to Jerry Nadler. Michael L. Nadler is the son of. What the fuck? It says no. Let me hear. It says no. Michael L. Nadler, the former U.S. attorney for District of Florida, is not related to Jerry Nadler. Michael L. Nadler is the son of Jerry Nadler, who is a U.S. representative for New York's 10th District. Michael Nadler serves as the assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida from 2011 to 2020.
I think it is him.
Why is it saying
and
no?
it kind of looks like Jerry Nadler if you pull up his picture.
Yeah, he does. So I don't. Okay. Read
on.
That.
That's him. And just I didn't say this before. I should have. Claire Cat is the one that pointed that out. She's like, "Is this Michael Nadler, who's Jerry Nadler's son?" And sure enough. So thank you, Claire Cat.
And way to go, Google AI. I should have used Perplexity. All right, good.
Google AI told me it was.
It said
I
no.
thought you said you did use Perplexity.
No, I said I used AI. I don't think. Here, look, I'll show you. It says no Michael L. Nadler.
Well, you're using Brave AI.
Well, it's Google. Same thing, same platform.
Well, my Gemini AI overview on the Google did not give me the same answer as you. I got the correct answer. Moving on. That's hilarious. And look at that picture. Pull up his picture.
Yeah, that's totally
definitely
there's
him.
no. Yeah, we're not.
That's definitely him. Poor guy.
Does he poop his pants too?
Probably not yet.
He still has intact bowels.
So,
all right.
Oh boy.
And the reason why they want to make Alejandro the bad guy is obviously because he's kind of like the trophy on the wall for Nadler. So they have to bring in his, old money laundering bona fides so that they can put him in contact with Venezuela. All right.
And the reason that Michael Nadler is relevant to the story, if you said this, I missed it, but I just want to reiterate it, is that he is one of the whistleblowers attorneys.
Now.
It's yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then of course they reemphasize, which they do throughout this book. I have 15 years experience working in the DOJ as a consultant for criminal investigation on the one hand, Martin, and Gary has worked 25 years for the CIA. Again, they just keep reiterating that through this whole book as if that makes them more trustworthy, which it does not.
On our own and with outside resources, we decided to launch our own investigation.
Except that they had outside resources. Patrick Byrne, right? He's the one that's
they said with outside. So they're not, this is completely outside any semblance of a legitimate investigation by any authority.
Patrick Byrne is CIA.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Okay.
I forgot. Well, he wasn't at the time. He wasn't disclosing that at the time that they wrote this book.
Yeah, but he was CIA.
Allegedly.
Has been. Yeah. And then he goes on to say on page 38 that they have no political agenda. And as soon as they say they have no political agenda, they have a political agenda.
Jerry Nadler's son has no political agenda, everyone.
Yes. Okay. And again, Jerry Nadler's son prosecuted a guy trying to feed Venezuela with a backdated Interpol arrest warrant that Mike Pompeo personally orchestrated along with John Bolton. Okay, so moving on. Martin also goes on to say, because we conducted this as a criminal investigation, although they're not in a capacity to do that, we have focused our collecting evidence and witnesses, which is the opposite of what Trump lawyers Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani did after the 2020 election, when they made claims without conducting an investigation. And I'm sorry, but Rudy Giuliani flew over to Ukraine. He went and did investigations. He interviewed people. They didn't just make claims. The affidavits, Sidney Powell had a pile of affidavits, one of which was from that Neanderthal chick that falsified an affidavit. But there were people inserted into their investigations to destroy their investigations.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Sidney Powell talked about Venezuelan whistleblowers that never could materialize, right? They never actually materialized back then. And that was, and Brian, keep me honest on this, that was the key dispute between Sidney Powell and Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson ran cover and basically, humiliated Sidney Powell on the air, saying she keeps coming to me and saying this stuff, and there just isn't any things. We've tried to vet every single aspect of it, and there's no. So Tucker Carlson helped bury this shit back when he was on Fox News at that time. You won't convince me that Sidney Powell was operating in bad faith or as, like going off half cocked without doing her own research. She was told stuff, maybe even shown some stuff, and then her investigation was sabotaged. And now they're throwing her under the bus as though, this didn't happen back in 2020. Could have happened, but for Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. No, that's bullshit.
Yeah. And again, you're piling up your bona fides as if like you've got all of these people on your team. There's no one that has more credibility or more experience in the DOJ with investigations than Sidney Powell. Nobody.
No, she was sabotaged.
Yeah. All right. So that last paragraph on page 38, towards the bottom, it says, today, that same system, talking about the system to steal elections, is being used to steal elections in 72 countries around the world. All right. Well, try to Google that. So there's actually, it says that it's been used in 35 real elections and only 9 national elections. Not like, so overall elections, not 72 countries. And only most of them, if you look at the material that's on their own website, they were like for national or for local referendums or stuff like that in different countries. But 9 national elections their systems was used in. And I'll name the 9: US, Mexico, Ecuador, Argentina, Bulgaria, Brazil, Belgium, everything else. And they also list that they used pieces of Smartmatic. For example, in Chile, Singapore, and Kenya, they used just the biometrics of it. They didn't use the whole election system. So you're not going to find 72 countries' elections around the world using Smartmatic at the national level.
Yeah.
That's a huge, big difference.
But But they're saying used to steal elections in 72 countries. So that doesn't say national elections. It doesn't say chief executive elections. And I would probably argue that if they're using any part of the system, it probably is bringing in the ability to rig elections, because I don't trust any of these systems. I think they're built for fraud. So I'm less bothered by the 72 countries thing. If it's even close to being used modularly at a county, whatever. But I don't care. I care about US elections. And this is, oh my God, we have to save elections for the world. No, we need.
I agree with you, Ash, overall, but I'm going to the level of credibility of the entire book based on these assertions of false information that's seeded throughout this book. So if
I'm certainly not going to play CIA advocate. So please continue.
So if every page has something that's misinformation or disinformation, then the overall premise of the book falls apart.
Yes.
It's
again,
just like when they don't know where General Franks was.
out of 72 nations, they don't have, as far as I can tell, somebody name one that has a favorable leader to Venezuela, who has the power to put in whoever the hell they want to lead that country.
I actually found it very interesting, the countries that they listed, because Belgium, obviously, the CIA would want to control the elections there because that's where NATO is. Yep. Bulgaria, they definitely want to control the elections because that's the illicit arms capital of the world. So in each of these countries, I can make an argument on why the CIA would want to control them.
Yep.
But not Venezuela.
Not Venezuela.
Or at least no evidence that they're supportive of Venezuelan regimes.
Correct. So on page 39, these slides that are going to be throughout the next several pages, did you notice the fine print on the slides? They present these slides as if they're official.
Attorney work.
What it actually says.
I can't read that.
Attorney work product. That means that Nadler's son basically created these slides, and they're going to use them as if, because they obviously were part of the presentation that has been given to all of them. So the
presentation that they showed to the DOJ, CIA, and FBI in 2024, and they refused to do anything about it.
And the one that supposedly is being used by the Trump administration right now to investigate election fraud.
Right.
Okay. So that's a very important thing. They're just made up by the legal staff of these whistleblowers.
By Jerry Nadler's son.
Well, hold on. Do we know that it's Nadler and not attorney work product from like the Dominion cases or anything like that, like the Fox News case?
It's possible.
So we don't necessarily know that it's Nadler.
No.
Ryan just debunked us.
If you go through the different presentation slides, they all have that caveat down at the bottom of them. And this is the slide presentation that's part of that presentation that they're given to them.
Okay. That would be an excellent question for somebody to get them on an interview and actually ask them, who's the attorney that wrote all this? But they don't want the hard questions. They just want softballs.
Which is why they won't show up on your show.
Which is why they won't show up on our show.
All right. So on that same page, since the manipulation of election results in Venezuela and around the world began in earnest in 2004, the names of the companies have changed, as well as the legal owners of a particular piece of computer code in a sort of shell game. But the all-important source code has remained under the control of Venezuelans who created it and designed the system, which we have no proof of yet, right? Because the company Smartmatic was actually created in America, not Venezuela. So there's been no proof that Smartmatic was created in Venezuela. It was created by expats from Venezuela that left in the aftermath of Chavez's election because they were disgruntled and pissed off at the new regime. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's why they came to the Miami, and they set up this company in the immediate aftermath of that and that quote unquote hanging Chad.
Yep.
Now the next slide.
Hang on. Not just in the yes, in the aftermath of hanging Chad, in earnest in the aftermath of HAVA, the Help America Vote Act that gave birth to the elections industry in the United States of America. So we're talking, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jerry Nadler was in Congress in 2002. So we're talking about complicity, I would argue. That is the argument that I would forward, is that it was enabled, this, hell of a coincidence if it's not being enabled by legislation.
Okay. So on the next slide, Company A, Smartmatic. The origins of this company started in 1997 with a company named Software Softer CA. The problem with that is, if that was true, and it is the feeder into Smartmatic, that's a big if. If that's true, who was president in 1997 in Venezuela? Not Chavez.
Not Rafael Caldera.
I think it was Perez, but whatever. It was a CIA control guy. Okay, so in 1997, CIA was all over Venezuela. USAID was there, all of them. So if you understand the history, that means that the people that created this, according to their own slide, was not Chavez and not Maduro. It was under the CIA selected guy that was president in 1997. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So just put that under your hat. 3 years later, on April 11th, 2000, 3 Venezuelan engineers founded the company in Delaware because they left immediately with their quote unquote encrypted software because they didn't want to live under Chavez. Right? So they took their goods and parked them down in the Miami area of Florida and registered their company in Delaware. Now, let me also ask you this. If you've never been to America, who told them to incorporate in Delaware?
Same, probably Jerry Nadler. I'm just kidding. It was a joke. I don't know. Upon information,
why wouldn't you just incorporate in Florida?
Yeah,
because that's where you registered the company. But they knew enough, because somebody was coaching them, to know to register in Delaware. These are 3 strangers who just washed up on the shore of Miami, and they're savvy enough to register their company in Delaware. Just pointing out the obvious. All right. Going on. In 2005, Smartmatic acquired Sequoia Voting Systems, which started as Mathematical Systems Corporation in California and had developed a punch card voting system, which of course we know was the whole Bush hanging Chad company that then led into the Bush v. Gore and all that other crap. All right. Nobody's going to convince me that that wasn't planned as well. In 1984, Sequoia purchased the voting machine business of AVM Corporation, formerly Automatic Voting Machine Corporation, and was reorganized as Sequoia Voting Systems. That's when Sequoia got into the voting machine business in the US. Moving on. On March 8th, 2005, after losing money for several years, Sequoia was acquired by Smartmatic. Now let's look at this slide. Company B, Sequoia. The first bullet point, Sequoia was involved with voting machines for more than 100 years. In the 1980s, Sequoia was bought by Jefferson Smurfit. They paid $33 million for Sequoia.
And that's an Irish company?
I have
Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
British
De La
currency
Rue is
for
British.
printing.
That's De La Rue. That's the
that's
second
De La
part.
Rue, and we're going to get to them in a minute.
Got it. Okay.
Smurfit, let me see. I think I have a slide on that.
This print is so small.
Yeah. Let me get back to my photos because I took a screenshot of it. With all of my, anyway, yeah. So it's a foreign country. So wouldn't that be a problem if foreign countries owning election software is a problem? All right. Then it then sold it to the De La Rue company for $16 million. That's $7 million in basically 3 years.
17. From 33 to 16, that's $17 million.
No, 23.
Oh, 23. I thought, are
23.
you sure? I thought it was 33.
I found an article that said it was 23.
Okay.
But anyway, it was way more than what they sold it for a few years later. Now, I don't know if you guys went into De La Rue, but the former CEO of De La Rue, Martin Sutherland, was BAE Systems Applied Intelligence Company before he was De La Rue. And that company is tied directly to MI6, just FYI. Also, in the Panama Papers, De La Rue was investigated for fraud in India and South Sudan. De La Rue produces passports, national IDs, currency for central banks. That just happened to be in the middle of buying election systems used in the United States. They are also, let's see, I made a note. They are also considered a security company that prints bank notes. Let's see. They've been tied up in all kinds of nefarious things. So, also, I found an article that talked about Sequoia being, during this time that they owned it, and it led to them not being profitable because Sequoia was having problems with election day glitches and software issues during that time. Now, you have a company that's affiliated with MI6. And isn't it ironic that it all ends up back in England, right? In London. Okay, so it's passed through London already once through De La Rue. And then it ends up back in London under Lord Malloch Brown, right?
Right.
Okay. Sequoia has approximately 20% of the market. So I just thought that was hilarious. All right. Then it says Smartmatic, a multinational technology founded by 3 U.S. residing Venezuelan expat engineers, which developed advanced election systems, including voting machines. Interestingly, Smartmatic machines and software were used in the 2004 Venezuelan recall referendum, which many observers accused of irregularity. Well, the only observers that accused it of irregularities were on the payroll of USAID.
Americans. Yep.
The Carter voting organization and the OAS, which is nefarious in and of itself, but they provide election observers, all did the observations and said it was fine, that there was not widespread fraud of any kind. And then these claims were based on 2 studies, which were exit polls that depicted massive fraud. Well, if you look up the exit polls, you get down to this final report of the International Statistical Review. This also is based in Miami, just FYI. Not independent. The two women have the actual same address associated with them if you look them up.
Can we pause for a second, because something is just bugging me and I want to point it out. So the origins of I'm going back a couple pages. The origins of the company started in 1997 with this softer thing. In 1997, Hugo Chavez was out of prison and planning his comeback, right?
He's in the election that's going to happen in 1998.
Right. And then he assumes office again in 1999, right? And then in 2000,
98.
He's elected in 98, but doesn't he go back in office in 99?
So no, you're thinking about two different things. Oh. He did the coup in the early 90s and was put in prison. He gets out of prison and he starts campaigning. Yep. And he is going to campaign to be elected in 1998. He is in office from 1998 on.
Yeah.
It's not him coming back in office. He was in office in 1998 on.
Yeah. Now, no, what I meant was like our election is in 2016, but they take office in 2017. That was what I meant. That's the time period, not the point. That's not the point I'm making, though. Okay. So the point I'm making is in 2000 is when these three engineers flee to the United States and found this company, this Delaware company. So does that sound? One of the things that I've learned from you, whether we're talking about Cuba or, Venezuela or any of these countries where we, have where the CIA has been thrown out of, is that the people coming here are generally the people being thrown out. The collaborators of the people that are being thrown out. So the timing is very interesting.
That's my point.
Yeah, the timing is very interesting. That they're coming here. So in 1997, in a back room, these three engineers discover, create fire, the ability to manipulate all the elections of the world without being detected, and no one can even fathom what you're doing. And then immediately upon or just shortly after Hugo Chavez coming into power and throwing the CIA out of the country, these guys also come here, leave too, but just because they're trying to infiltrate U.S. elections. That story doesn't make sense.
None. That's what I wanted to point out. So thank you for
I finally got it.
Okay. Okay.
Wait till we get to 2014. Keep going.
All right. And so in the top of 42, in other words, Smartmatic machines and software were used to change the results of the 2004 Venezuelan referendum. Nonetheless, the sale of Sequoia was approved. So on this slide, they're talking about Smartmatic bought Sequoia from De La Rue. Now, we've already established that De La Rue is weird and definitely tied to intelligence for printing passports and money for over 100 and some countries. And they just happened to temporarily get into the election business for the $16 million. Venezuelan government has been on the slide. Venezuelan government has been a solid client of De La Rue Printing Company since 2004, printing currency and passports. Well, guess what? So has another 140 countries. De La Rue provides currency and or passports for 140 countries.
Isn't that every country?
Well, there's probably the 140 that actually has currency.
Right.
Yeah, when I was working for PwC, we were in 149, which makes me think those are the ones that are developed enough to have audit capability. So 150 countries.
Yeah. And they print money for about 70 of those countries.
Nice.
So, I think that's hilarious. And one of the 140 just so happens to be Venezuela. So automatically you're in cahoots.
Yep.
Okay. Good God. All right. The Whistleboys say this is the moment the United States voting system was infected with the virus. Talking about the Smartmatic purchase
In 2004.
of Sequoia. Yes.
That's the moment, is in 2004 is the moment that, according to the Whistleboys, that our elections were infected. And what I pointed out to Brian the first time that we went through this is the entire technology landscape has changed since 2004. Systems have changed, coding languages have changed. So I have one of the problems with the way that they're treating source code in this book is that code has to be maintained. Code is, it's a kind of a living thing. And certainly when you look at how elections are run today versus how they were run in 2004, it's very, very different. And all of those EMS modules and all of those things that have evolved running on code developed by 3 Venezuelans in a back room in 2004 does not foot. It doesn't, that doesn't make sense.
The code was 1997.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to just reiterate, foot stomp, this Sequoia went from Ireland to England to that Delarue. But as soon as it touched Smartmatic, it got infected. Not any place before that. Okay. Everybody else has a clean sheet. But as soon as it touches Smartmatic, it's immediately infected. All right. I just find that hilarious. All right.
100%.
All right. So page 43.
I know. There it is.
I am writing regarding the investments of a Venezuelan government in Smartmatic, a voting machine. And this is a letter that was written to the Treasury Secretary, John Snow, by Democratic Congressman or Congresswoman Caroline Maloney. And where is she from?
New York.
New York, the same place Nadler's from.
Interesting.
So she just happens to have a problem with Smartmatic buying it. She had no problem with England buying it or Ireland buying it or anybody else, just Venezuela.
Yeah.
All right. And then the moment they refused to disclose the quote unquote real owners. So if you go back and look, it says Sequoia. What did I write? They didn't confirm. So they're basically insisting that there's some nefarious owner behind Smartmatic. And it says then they refused to reveal who that was. And then that matter was then referred to CFIUS, the Interagency Committee for Foreign Purchases. And CFIUS' primary concern in most reviews is the technology or the funds that are to acquire U.S. business. Okay. And it says CFIUS gave Smartmatic an ultimatum. Either you show us the ultimate beneficiaries of your company or you have to leave the country. Then it says, actually, the date that they're using this having happened is in 2006, according to their narrative, right? The actual decision of CFIUS did not come out until November 2007.
Yeah.
So Smartmatic basically decided to divest themselves of Sequoia prior to the CFIUS ruling. They didn't do it as a result of CFIUS because CFIUS ruling did not come out until November 2007.
When did they divest?
Well, it says here on December 22nd, 2006, Smartmatic announced the company's intention to sell Sequoia voting systems.
Yeah, I mean, they knew, they would have seen the writing on the wall, though, right?
Potentially, but I just want to clarify, it was not a result of a CFIUS finding.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Well, they also didn't sell it to like a new owner or anything. They basically sold it to themselves and rebranded themselves as an American company. They sold it to the management.
Correct. Well, if you go down here, it says that so Smartmatic CEO Ontario, whatever his name is,
Antonio Mujica,
and the other two original owners sold Sequoia to another company, a Canadian one called Dominion. So it's another foreign country.
That was later on. They didn't sell. Oh no, I'm thinking of ES&S. Never mind. Keep going.
So I'm like, wait a minute. We went from US to Ireland to England to America with expats living in Miami with a company registered in Delaware to Canada. And that's the solution?
Yep.
To another foreign country. None of this makes any sense to me. None of it. All right. So, moving on. There's some crap there about the cryptology and the access control and other computer securities. And then it says, as a result, the Secretary of State of California refused to approve the use of Sequoia voting machines in her state. Then on page 47, it says, throughout these changes from Smartmatic to Sequoia to Dominion, the software mutated, but the source code remained the same and was still owned and controlled by the original quote unquote Venezuelan developers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my position on this, and it maintains since the first time we went through this, is that at all of these points where a state has reviewed this and decided either yes or no, it doesn't matter what the decision was at the time that they've reviewed it, and certainly with places like Texas and California that rejected these things, it's a US problem now. We can't blame Venezuela at all for this when Americans have reviewed it and said, oh, hang on a second, we can't do this. And then other places inside of the United States of America do it anyway, employ it anyway. And why do we have nationalized security infrastructure if not to prevent exactly that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So Martin then goes on to say, we recruited the engineers who designed the original system. One thing we accomplished is not just the institutional knowledge of those engineers going back to 2003, but I thought it was built in 97. When the system was built, what we acquired was a source code because they have the source code. So if these people, the engineers, maintained the source code that was created in Smartmatic after they left the company, isn't that a huge security risk? These guys are just running around the world with source code to elections.
Have you guys read that slide on page 46?
Yeah.
The fine print. I mean, it's all fine print.
I can't read it. I can't read it. You have to read it to me.
Let me read this because this is 2007.
Like, seriously, you guys.
Many of the security features of the Sequoia system, particularly those that protect the integrity of the precinct's results, employ cryptography. Unfortunately, in every case we examine, the cryptography is easily circumvented. Many cryptographic functions are implemented incorrectly based on weak algorithms with known flaws or used in an ineffective or insecure manner. Of particular concern is the fact that virtually all cryptographic key material is permanently hard-coded in the system and is apparently identical in all Sequoia hardware shipped to different jurisdictions. This means that an individual who gains temporary access to similar hardware inside California or elsewhere can extract and obtain the secret cryptographic keys that protect elections in every California county that use the system. It's the same thing as DVS Corp 08 exclamation point.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't changed a damn thing on any of this. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I also also like when they say source code, because they talked about in the California thing, oh no, the source code was already put on the Sequoia machines, right? So we don't know what to do because poison pill. And then you have here the source code has stayed the same. What are we talking about? Because we're not talking about the software stack. Doesn't sound like. Is it the operating system? But so was it the Smartmatic operating system that was put into Sequoia machines, and that was something we couldn't undo? Like, what is it when they say source code? What specifically are they talking about? They don't say, as far as I remember. Yeah.
Never.
It's just this, like, evil little floating Hitler inside of the. Yeah.
It's the ones and zeros that a judge would never understand.
Yeah, you have to rely on the experts. So
yes.
You have to rely on J. Alex Halderman to come in and tell you how,
all of our whistle boys.
Yeah.
All right. So Martin goes on to say, let's see, that where he says that we recruited the engineers who designed it. One thing we accomplished is not just institutional knowledge, but my question was, how, and I wrote that down, as a matter of fact, Ash, about the source code. What is it?
Yeah.
This is the key. The source code of a computer system is its DNA. It's the same with computers, skipping down to the last paragraph. If you take the Dominion source code and compare it with the original source code of Smartmatic, the binary codes, which are the zeros and one components of the source code. Now read the next thing carefully at the top of 48, are fundamentally the same. That's not the same thing as saying they are the same. They're either the same or they're not the same.
Yeah.
It's a way the CIA talks in order to get you to believe something that fundamentally isn't true.
Yeah. It's like caveats.
Yes. It's like the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. That doesn't mean it is, but I want to leave you with the impression that it is. So I use this word, hallmark, and when you walk away, you think it's Russian disinformation. So they use the word.
Because all the experts said that.
You use the word here, fundamentally the same. That does not mean it is the same.
They're also still not talking about what, like, so the source code of a computer system is like the DNA. Are we talking about the operating system? Are we talking about the actual voting system? What are we talking about in terms of where this source code has been injected?
Right.
Still don't tell us.
The other thing that's kind of interesting here is that, this is California that found that the software has the source code has the cryptographic keys like hard coded into the system. And we know that there's a lot of congruency between Smartmatic and
Mark Bernovich just died.
Really?
That's what Phil Scarborough just said.
Former AG of.
He was young, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you see the congruence between Smartmatic and Sequoia. California would not adopt the Sequoia system because of these issues. So they did, their due diligence on the source code. The funny thing is Los Angeles uses Smartmatic to this day. And now they didn't adopt at least the most recent system they adopted in 2017. I don't know what they had before that in Los Angeles. But this would kind of piggyback off of what Colonel Towner was saying earlier about Sequoia is the infection here. Sequoia is what got into Smartmatic and infected Smartmatic. And that's why California didn't pick up on it when they used Smartmatic, because there is no infection in the Smartmatic that they're using currently. The infection resides with the Delarue version of it that went over to Ireland and then London, where Smartmatic now resides in London. Just food for thought.
It's crazy. All right. So then he does an excerpt of an interview with a Venezuelan engineer who created the infamous source code that we don't know what it is. Then why does Dominion say that they didn't borrow anything from the source code used by Smartmatic? The answer, because what they did is that they took all of the functionalities that they needed from Smartmatic source code and put them in a new language. Oh, okay. Non-programmer here. If they put it in a new language, how is it fundamentally the same? How is it the same at all? This is on page 48.
No, but when in the series of events is this happening? 2007? Is that right?
Well, it's saying that what the question is, then why does Dominion say they didn't borrow anything from the source code? So they're talking about when Dominion ended up with Smartmatic, which we established was in when was that? 2007? I think so. When did we have that purchase? Yeah, 2007. Was it 2007?
No, it was like 05, I think.
2005 for $16 million.
Right. 07 is when California rejected it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they say the answer was because what they did is they took all of the functionality that they needed from Smartmatic source code and put it in new language. So it isn't the same. It's a new language version of it, which may or may not.
Fundamentally the same.
It's fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
Imagine you're recording a song and then he does this, blah, blah, blah. So when Dominion is confronted, they can say it's not the same source code as the one used by Smartmatic or Sequoia. They're not really telling the truth, but a judge won't understand that because they don't know the difference.
Stupid dumb
zeros
judges.
and ones.
Yep.
It's not like we don't have any independent computer experts that could serve as an expert witness in a court case to tell you whether or not they're fundamentally the same or not. Judges don't know a lot of shit and they still make rulings based on expert testimony.
Yeah, we also never get that far because no independent expert is allowed to examine the code of these systems. And so it's, well, we had to do it this way and it was moved and, it's super scary, but you can't look there. That's actually really, really dumb. And you're exactly right. We have expert witnesses. We have people like Clay that come in and explain to the judges how the technology works and where the problems are and those kinds of things. But this is special because it's Venezuelan.
Yeah. The architecture is the same. The flow chart is the same, but they change the programming language. The architecture, the flow chart, the essence is still owned and controlled by the same Venezuelans.
The essence? The essence is controlled by the same Venezuelans?
Yes.
I hate it when that happens, when your essence is controlled by fucking foreigners.
And that's why I want to just kind of, for non-computer people, to point out all of these basic non-logical sequences that they're trying to work you through. We started off that, basically it's the same thing. That's the assertion. Well, it's almost the same thing. It's fundamentally the same thing. And then you get down here that it's not the same thing at all. It's in a completely different language. And nobody's ever actually looked at the two different things to even know whether or not they're remotely the same. So the whole thing's just bullshit.
But the essence, Colonel, the essence is owned by Venezuela. Also, the architecture, the flow chart, the essence, those are the things that are still controlled by Venezuela. The code has been rewritten into a new language by different developers who are apparently in Canada now, right?
Yeah.
But the essence is owned by Venezuela. Now listen to what we've heard about this book and about this story. It's basically that Nicolas Maduro had a button to push to determine election outcomes in 72 countries around the world. It's not exactly what they said, but that was the essence. That was the essence of what they said, is that Venezuela is controlling elections in 72 countries around the world. And they're doing that because they control the essence.
Yes. Of a completely rewritten system. But the essence is still there. Fundamental.
Also consider how many people. So in the telling of this story, in the move, so we started in 1997 in Venezuela. We moved to the U.S. We bounce all over the place. We end up in Canada. There's a lot of co-conspirators now involved in this thing, and we're told that it was such a super scary thing that and so outside the realm of what U.S. cyber experts could fathom at the time. Right, that we had to employ other nations' experts because our experts couldn't possibly fathom what was going on. But this it now involves a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of U.S. and foreign entities and individuals that all have knowledge and
The same essence.
ostensibly, yeah, they do, yeah. So the essence is widening, I think. It's spreading.
Yes.
They're spreading
Yes.
the essence.
Yes. But the source code is the human readable representation of the instructions that control the operation of the computer, according to their computer expert. Source code is the human readable form in which software is written by computer programmers. Source code is usually written in a programming language that is arcane and incomprehensible to non-specialists, but a computer programmer. The source code is the master blueprint. So they're telling you that their version of the words source code is the actual coding in the system. It's the,
but again, operating system, the operating system or the election system.
You would have to imply, since it's fundamental, that it's the operating system.
Both of those things have source code, is my point. Both of those things have source code. Both the election system and the operating system
But in order for all of these Smartmatic, Dominion, Sequoia, all of them to be infected with all of this, they're going to have different things attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Different readers and all that other stuff. So you're talking about the actual system software, to me, is what that's the impression that they give you. Because there's plug and plays in different counties that they can have, a poll book from this and a system from this. A lot of them are interchangeable. So you're talking about something very fundamental to the system.
Well, yeah, and I think, but how I understand this, and again, Brian, keep me honest on this, is the way that how I understand the technical count side, fake counts side of election fraud, is that the code of the election system works also with the tools like SQL Server Management Studio that have nothing to do with the election system, the hardware tools.
Right.
So even here, it's being sort of overly simplified in terms of what they're describing.
And here's the way my brain works on this. So I guess Maduro has two buttons, because you have the Smartmatic systems, right? And you have the Dominion systems that are written in different code language, but they're saying they're fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
So if they're fundamentally the same, but wired in a different language, how does that same button work?
Yeah. Great.
Anybody answer that?
No.
How's that work? This is coded in, language B. This is coded in language A. But somehow I have a magic button sitting on the desk of Maduro on the night of the election that I can push to change both systems.
You could have some sort of translation layer or integration layer built in, but again, it'd be really hard to hide that with all of the people now involved.
But
I think it might be
proprietary. How do you know how to translate that language?
I think it might be simple enough, after what I just read about the Sequoia system, is that they just have the passwords hard coded into the source. No, seriously. And that's how they're able to get in. Because we found the same thing.
And this whole thing is vaporware. This is, we're magical, super secret, can hack in ways you can't fathom. And in reality, they just have the password hidden.
Exactly. And you log in and you're able to able to get into the SQL databases and flip votes. That's as simple as it is. You just have to know where to look for the password. Jenna Griswold put the passwords on the Secretary of State website. Now you're into not only the system, you're into the BIOS system, so you can turn on Wi-Fi if you need to. Like, the whole thing is just a fucking scam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
So when they say it's different languages, sure, but if you know where to look for the password, it doesn't matter the language. You're not hacking it and changing the script or anything, changing the code. You're just logging in. It's easy.
And that's all being done by Venezuela, according to these guys.
100% Venezuelan, 99%. I'm going to start saying 99% just so Huck Fillery doesn't, although I don't think Huck Fillery watches this show, so I'm okay.
Okay. So
How
page
dare he.
49, just a couple of notes to keep the flow. Election officials use the equipment, but they are normally not given access to the source code. Currently, there are 3 major companies that run elections. Dominion is the largest, with about 50 to 60% of the market. In 2016, its machine served 70 million in 1,600 jurisdictions, including all of the swing states. The state of Georgia joined the portfolio in 2019. Dominion's main competitor is Hart InterCivic, runs elections in the state of Hawaii's Oklahoma, half of Washington, Colorado, and certain counties in the rest of those states. Since Hart InterCivic licensed pieces of the software created by Smartmatic, it's vulnerable too. Did you know that Hart attempted a hostile takeover of Sequoia?
Yeah, I did actually read that back around 2010, I think.
Well, during the same time when Smartmatic decided that they were going to sell it, Hart tried a hostile takeover of it at that same time.
Okay, so that was 2005. I remember I read about all this in the bankruptcy filings from Sequoia. There was because all of the big companies are mentioned in those filings.
But Dominion ended up with it.
Right.
Let's see. Also, and according to Hart, during that hostile takeover, there is no software shared according to Hart. So this thing that he says right here, that Hart licensed pieces of software, that's not true. There was actually an article written that says that is absolutely not true. They share nothing with them.
That Hart InterCivic and Dominion share nothing?
Correct.
Yeah, that was always my understanding as well.
Yes.
No,
The licensing the pieces
saying,
of the software. You're saying they don't do that?
They do not.
This is saying that Hart InterCivic licenses from Smartmatic.
Yeah, they do not. They don't license from
Okay.
anybody. Everything that they have is proprietary to themselves.
Well, now they might, because you know who the senior vice president of Hart InterCivic is now? Hyder Garcia. He's one of the Venezuelan former executives from Smartmatic before they were dissolved in Florida, and he's the one that ran the election.
When did that happen?
He's the one that gets blasted in the Philippines in 2010, I believe, by Teodoro Toxin. I can show it.
Yeah, play that. That was a great clip.
You keep going. We're running out of time.
Okay. And then he talks about, let's see. They elaborated by saying the planning takes about a year to throw the election. States vary in terms of level of election oversight. Texas has a very strong compliance process at the state level. California has no real overall supervision. Martin, in his little diatribe on 50, says that it's like playing the casino. In the casino, even the odds are stacked against them. People are playing because once in a while someone wins. It creates the semblance of a system that is fair. Goes on to say, getting back to Smartmatic, it's the original story in Venezuela, explains how it expanded into the International Election Company and has manipulated elections in the US and elsewhere. Again, those are just statements that as we've seen, there's no proof so far. All right, getting to page 52. They've got another big slide there that talks about Smartmatic's real ownership structure. And again, this is just made up.
Yes, I agree.
There's no verification for any of this. But what I do find interesting is the top two middle guys.
CIA.
Yes, that's what I wrote on my book.
CIA
on both of them.
Yep.
And then, of course, Mark Malloch Brown is tied to MI6. It talks about the original company was registered in Delaware, blah, blah, blah. And then they get into a lot of this has to do with the two men in the top row, Jorge Rodriguez and Cabello. One of the founders.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 52.
Oh, you're still on the chart. Good.
All right. So one of the founders, this is in the book, one of the founders and CFO of the company, Alfredo Jose Anzolo, is no longer with Smartmatic. Why? Because he had a plane crash. And the certified airline transport pilot, 2 passengers, one of which was a Smartmatic employee and the other a convicted drug trafficker, both in Venezuela and in the US, and 5 people on the ground were fatally injured. The flight was destined for Curacao. So here's an interesting thing. The drug trafficker that's from Venezuela, because of course we're discrediting Venezuela, was actually named Jose Donate. He was convicted in the US for drug smuggling in 1999, drug smuggling in Venezuela under the old president, not Chavez. He was also prosecuted under Chavez for drug smuggling.
So does that mean he's CIA? Because if he's not with any regime,
or adjacent.
Well, the CIA was running the drug trafficking in Venezuela up until Chavez took over. So yes, it does mean that he was in bed with the CIA. However, even though he went to jail in the he was convicted in the United States, he maintained his FAA flying license. Just saying, you're not allowed to do that. So somebody made sure he did that.
CIA.
Especially someone who wants drugs flown into the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then they go on. Shortly before the crash, Alfredo Anzola had discovered irregularities in Smartmatic's contract. I put on there more like he found out that the CIA was involved in the Smartmatic manipulation. Yeah. Okay. Then he goes on to say, people have speculated the crash wasn't an accident because according to rumor, Anzola was the lover of Delcy Rodriguez. Now, why would you put that in this book if your whole thing has to do with election interference and control?
Because you're trying to disparage Delcy Rodriguez.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she's the acting president of Venezuela right now. And the timing of this certainly implies that they were anticipating that.
And you're going off of speculation and rumor are 2 words that should not appear in this book.
In the same sentence. In the same sentence.
Yes.
Trying to disparage the current president, which, by the way, they all want Maria Kuna Matata as the president of.
Yeah, we have 3 pages left. We have to finish.
Okay. And they entered into an affair with the wife of the governor of the state of Murata, Hugo Chavez's close confidant and head of the Cartel del Sol, which doesn't exist.
CIA.
Anzola survived the crash, and Cabola arranged for the transfer of a badly injured Anzola from a local hospital to one in Caracas. But he never made it, and he was tortured. However, if you look up an article that was printed in Venezuela, he died in the hospital before the transportation could even be arranged.
So what? Okay? Not tortured.
He was not tortured.
And they say according to reports, but they don't say what reports.
Correct. No references in this book at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just
These people are
assertions.
so
He
garbage.
died in the hospital.
Wow.
All right. And then they reference a book, Comandante, Myth and Reality in Hugo Chavez's Venezuela. This author, Corey Carroll, I'm not even going to go through what he says. Corey Carroll writes. Rory, writes for The Guardian, The Atlantic. Yeah. Okay.
So he's got the British and he's got the DC complex.
Well, and just so that you understand, The Atlantic has like 7 former CIA directors on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then the top of page 54, the president of the National Assembly from 2015 or 2012, he's talking about Cabello. So we're still besmirching him. He was the president of the National Assembly from 2012 to 15. He made a habit of ignoring constitutional rules entirely. At various times, preventing opposition members from speaking, suspending their salaries, stripping them of problematic parliamentary immunity, even presiding over physical beating of opposition lawmakers. Let me tell you what happened. The opposition lawmakers involved in this brawl, all funded by USAID, Smartmatic, that gave birth to Mikado and Guaido. Every one of the lawmakers that were involved in this were USAID funded lawmakers.
You mean Machado?
Machado, sorry. Mikado,
and on this on Badlands, she is Maria Acuna Matata.
Acuna Matata. I can remember that one. All right.
So
she hangs out with Una Panuna every now and then.
Yeah.
Every one of them refused to recognize the election results of Maduro. During the confrontation, see if this sounds familiar. The opposition in session started blowing whistles so that no one could talk. And for their disruption of an official proceeding, their pay was docked for it. Blowing whistles like the guys on the streets in the ICE raids.
Yeah, like the Minnesota, that whole Minnesota lady that was shot while she was running over a police ICE agent. Yeah, they were all blown whistles.
It's the same training. Okay.
Love it.
All right. Oh, and by the way, USAID spent $1.7 billion in Venezuela. $1.7 billion to train these people to act like this.
But wait, I thought that money was going in for like aid and to, fix infrastructure and
USAID, international development.
Wasn't. We didn't.
Nothing to do with aid.
There was no aid. Got it. Okay.
All right. Moving on. 54 in the middle. In February 1992, Cabello led a group of tanks against and that was part of the coup that Chavez orchestrated. Against the government of Perez. That's who I was talking about earlier. And of course, Perez was a CIA puppet. So they were trying to overthrow the CIA installed guy that was in bed with USAID and all of that other stuff. All right. Down at the bottom of the page. In 2004, the opposition succeeded in doing just that.
Getting the signatures.
And a recall referendum was scheduled for August. Now, USAID did this recall. 100. They paid for everything. Okay.
Wow.
The pre-vote polls showed that Chavez was defeated, and it's the same polls that are funded by USAID. So USAID has decided Chavez is not going to win the referendum. Okay.
This was Acuna Matata's first go at it, wasn't it?
Yes.
In 2004. Yes. And this was fresh off of, she went and did a 4-month stint at Yale University.
Yes. To be trained.
And then she goes in George Bush's hair, touting her out there in the Oval Office and everything. Yeah.
Yes. because she's going to go back and make sure that Chavez loses the referendum.
And she was funded by the National Endowment for Democracy during that entire time. Ghost and I covered that on Culture of Change last night.
Yep. And USAID.
And USAID.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. All right. So, again, this is the referendum that vote that the Carter group and OAS was there and said there was no problem with the referendum vote. So Rodriguez's father, Jorge Rodriguez, was a student leader and terrorist who founded the Socialist League. Now, again, you're talking way back in the 1970s, and these kidnappings that happened during that time, this is during the height of the CIA being there. And these were the rebels that were fighting the CIA-controlled puppets in their governments. And yes, they did target U.S. corporations because U.S. corporations would not allow them to unionize. So I'm not excusing their behavior. I'm explaining the circumstances in which it happened. All right. Let's see.
How do you, Colonel, because if you read this and you take the names out of it, Jorge Rodriguez, and you take out all the context that we know about, Delcy and the relationship with Maduro and Chavez and all that stuff, how do you differentiate between, like if I were to read this, a student leader, terrorist, founded the Socialist League, criminal acts under the banner of revolution, kidnapping in 1976 of an American engineer, all of that sounds like, CIA operations, clandestine, Gladio type, Condor type. I know, but it sounds like that. So how do you distinguish between the two or differentiate?
Who's being paid to do what? So if you have a government structure that is put in place by the CIA and it's ran by the CIA, and there's drug trafficking and there's human trafficking and there's all kinds of shit going on that the peasants can't control. They're not allowed to unionize because National Endowment for Democracy has a unions pot of money that goes in there and infiltrates any legitimate union effort. I look at it from the perspective of who's involved. In the 70s is when the CIA had set up their torture camps. They were literally kidnapping people that opposed the CIA installed elected official.
Okay.
And they were disappearing them. People all over Venezuela had family members that were arrested on the streets, carted off to a black site, tortured unmercifully, and killed. Okay. USAID was shipping in generators with electrical leads and shocking these people to rat on their neighbors. That's going to generate a rebellion. Now, when those circumstances happens and the people organize to overthrow that government, to me, that's a legitimate rebellion. That's a legitimate revolution. That's what Chavez orchestrated in 1992. He was organizing the overthrowing of the CIA's control of their country. To me, those are legitimate activities given the circumstances of these people who are having people plucked out of their house.
Well, right, because when government becomes destructive to these ends, the people have a right to alter or abolish it, right? So if Hugo Chavez wants to get these scumbags out of his country, and then the people of Venezuela have a right to do that, at least according to what we believe about self-governance and sovereignty in the United States of America, right?
Right. But because they use the word in their organization, socialist, because that's what they want. They want the government to use the oil revenue for the people, which is what Chavez was all about. That's considered socialism. It's not considered socialism when Alaska does it.
Yeah.
Because Alaska does that. They give the people back the money revenue from the oil that's coming out of Alaska. That's not socialism. It's only socialism when you do it in another country. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's only socialism when you're trying to fabricate consent to overthrow a government.
We gotta move. We gotta move.
We're
over, and we got another page.
That's basically. I mean, if you go to the top of page 56, He's talking about Rodriguez's approach to election companies, ES&S in Omaha and Indra in Spain, both rejected the proposal. And I just find it very interesting that his assertion at the top of the page that Chavez gained control of the voting machines, there's literally no source documents to any of this. It's just words on a page. He goes on to talk about Khalil, the Lebanese Venezuelan born in Lebanon. And you'll see through the rest of the book, anybody that came from Lebanon is automatically, in this guy's opinion, Hezbollah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're legitimate Lebanese that during their civil war went to Venezuela because it's very similar climate. They're automatically Hezbollah. And then it says, today, the DEA Special Ops Division considers Khalil to be the largest drug trafficker in the Western Hemisphere. That's total bullshit. The biggest drug trafficker in the Western Hemisphere comes from Colombia.
I thought it was the CIA.
They just handle it.
Yeah.
They just handle it.
The source of cocaine, okay?
the source dealer is the CIA.
The control is the CIA.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Khalil owned a company, and he just goes on to, again, there's literally no source to anything that he says here. And you see in the middle of the paragraph, it was really a front to money launder for the terrorist group Hezbollah.
Reselling Dell and HPs in Venezuela.
Yeah. And then they talk about the Khalil's relationship with Rodriguez a decade ago while he was working for the DEA. Oh, shit. You mean the biggest drug dealer in the entire Western Hemisphere was a DEA informant? Tell me that's not true. Yeah.
Shocking.
The case was eventually blocked by the CIA, who was running Khalil as a source for 20 years. So they're documenting everything that I have said that is true, but they're putting it off on Venezuela. No, it's still the CIA.
Yeah, this is where Ash and I are like, this book so far, I think at this point, me and Ash were like, this book is talking all about how the Venezuela is rigging elections, but then everybody involved in Smartmatic and everybody that we're talking about here is CIA, is controlled by the CIA.
Yes.
And one thing that you looked over, and I don't know if it's because me and Ash distracted you, but you know, one of the narratives that's being put out there now is that Delcy Rodriguez is actually the CIA puppet. And that Machado needs to be, Hakuna Matata needs to be put in because Delcy Rodriguez is who the CIA really wants. And then in that middle where we're talking about the father being a terrorist, it says Rodriguez, meanwhile, was hunted down by members of the Venezuela's intelligence service with help from the CIA, interrogated, and died under torture. So you're telling us that the woman whose father was murdered by the CIA or at the help of the CIA is now the CIA puppet who's going to run this regime. And then the other thing that was overlooked here is he and Rodriguez approached two election companies, ES&S based in Omaha and Indra based in Spain. Both rejected the proposal and said they weren't in the business of fixing elections. Holy crap. You mean ES&S had somebody approach them and say, hey, can you fix elections for us? And they're like, nah, we're not in that business. And didn't like red alert everybody in the U.S. government?
That's like,
the
assertion.
We were approached by these people that said, hey, they want to fix elections and asked us if we can help. And we said, no, we thought you might want to know who they were. Here's their,
Let me make a suggestion that ES&G may have done that. But
ES&S.
who would they have went? Yeah. Who would they have went to?
Yeah.
The CIA.
Obama.
But they're the ones rigging it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they may have went and turned them in. But they're not going to do anything because they're doing it.
You know what's interesting about that? I don't know what timeline that was that they went and did that. Does it say, Ash, what time that they went to ES&S?
No.
In 2010, ES&S was forced to divest of Diebold voting systems.
Yeah.
And guess who bought up Diebold? Dominion. So in 2010, if you look up Dominion divestiture, Eric Holder, as the Attorney General, forced ES&S to divest of Diebold voting systems, saying that they controlled Diebold Premier, saying that they controlled too much of the elections. They had a monopoly on our elections.
Wasn't it CFIUS that made them
No,
divest?
CFIUS had to approve it. But Eric Holder was the one that ordered the divestiture, and Eric Holder had to first approve whoever the new company was, and they bought it for $5 million. I think they
How
bought.
much you want to bet that was the retribution for turning in the guy
that's exactly what I was thinking right there.
Yep.
ES&S might have.
Don't tell me that, but because you did, I'm going to kick you in the where. No, you know where.
Exactly. We're going to make it hurt. And now Dominion. And by the way, Dominion at that time was in the Robertson building in Toronto. And guess who shared the floor with them?
I know. The Tides Foundation.
The Tides Foundation. They had the whole third floor all to themselves of the Robertson building in Toronto.
Snuggled up with Dominion.
Toronto, Canada. It's so nasty.
CIA, but it's not the CIA.
Lord,
it's
the
bad CIA.
I think Tides is more MI6 because of the ties to Malik Brown and Open Society.
Yeah.
Although that's the same thing, right?
It is.
Different name.
Yes.
All right. So I think that's
there you go.
It for this. Yeah, we got to get out of here. I don't think we have one rant from I am Munuga Cake. I am a nuke mag. They use a clone that they upload into the RAM that can delete itself after the change happens. And I think that's the software that we were talking about.
I asked that account. I don't want to give it pronouns because I don't know what they are, but I asked, do you know that from somewhere or are you guessing? And he said that they said that they heard it from the experts on Alpha and Josh's show, but couldn't remember the name of the expert. So hopefully we'll find out. I can ask Alpha what that's talking about.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to jump over to Brad and Abby
I'm
Live.
going to rate it.
Oh, you're going to rate it. Okay. Well, I was going to play, well, we can tell you guys to get you some of that beard oil.
I'll rate it after that.
We're going to go ahead and play that. So Colonel, thank you for joining us. As always, we'll see you next week for sure. If not before then.
And do actually get yourself some beard oil, some lotion, tallow bar. We have lip balms and mini tallow sticks. Incredible America First products at softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands. And you're force multiplying your dollars. Every purchase supports at least 5 American businesses, small businesses. And that's how we win. So softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands.
I'm going to trim my beard up now. Colonel doesn't like my beard. She told me that.
I love it. I speak for the beards. I love all the beards.
I didn't say that.
No, I forgot you made a joke. I'm not saying you didn't. You said that. I was just kidding. Made a joke. It's okay. It's all in love. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone, got the close up. Do you see how awesome my beard looks right now? I use the beard oil every single day. First thing.
Comes out feeling all silky smooth.
I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil directly to my mustache.
Nice and oh man, I love it.
And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in, and then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
do it, Jay.
Amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you will be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willowin Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with one purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable. But for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And Soft Disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great, great product.